que aunque norte y sur sean distintos, lleven un mismo latido en el ritmo, como quien comparte el mismo apellido, porque al fin y al cabo somos latinos. Quiero que la unión que logra la fuerza rompa divisiones y abra más puertas. Quiero que entendamos que cuando todos sumamos se hace la diferencia. Diversos como hay palabras en el diccionario, todos los significados usan el mismo abecedario.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jason Marzek, Vice President, Senior Director of the Adrian Arch Latin America Center here at the Atlantic Council. I'd like to thank you all for joining us virtually today for this instant analysis on the known outcomes of the election in Mexico, and of course, highlight the implications of the win of Mexico's first female president in history. I also will introduce our speakers in a moment, but want to especially thank them. It's 9 o'clock here in Washington. It's 7 o'clock in the morning in Mexico City, and I would assume that most of them have not had much sleep last night. So thank you very much. I'll introduce them in a moment. For our viewers who have yet to look at the full results from last night, a quick synopsis here. According to the National Electoral Institute's quick count, Claudia Sheinbaum, now President-elect of Mexico, secured anywhere between 58.3 and 60.7% of the vote, with the second place candidate Xochitl Galvez between 26.6 and 28.6. What this does is this gives President-elect Sheinbaum a margin of victory of anywhere between 29.7 and 34.1 percentage points. So a massive mandate and a massive margin of victory, far surpassing the polling expectations for the president-elect. Today's event is the fifth installment of our 2024 Mexico election series titled Mexico's Path Forward, Framing the Next Sexenio. As part of the series, we met with the leading candidates' foreign policy advisors to discuss security, bilateral ties, and economic and border enhancements. We launched a report titled Commercial Pathways Forward for Mexico 2024-2030. And just before the election, we convened top journalists to give a preview of what to expect over the weekend. And in addition to today's conversation, on Wednesday, we'll be hosting here at the Atlantic Council, but those in Mexico can tune in virtually, the U.S. Ambassador to Mexico, Ken Salazar. Along with the win of President-elect Sheinbaum, and we'll talk about this over the call today, Morena and its allies won at the governor level, key local elections, and also importantly is the composition of the new Congress. And here we see in the Chamber of Deputies, the lower house, the Morena and its allies anywhere between 346 and 380 seats, and the Senate anywhere between 76 and 88 seats. Giving a supermajority in the lower house. We'll talk about the implications of that and the possibility of that within the Senate. So what were the big takeaways from yesterday's vote? What should be top of mind in digesting the results? What should we be watching for in the coming days? How will Mexico's markets continue to react to these outcomes? And what might the next president prioritize as part of her transition? So to do this, I am thrilled to be joined by Luz Maria de la Mora. Hola, Luzma. Luz is a non-resident senior fellow at the Adrian Arch Latin America Center here at the Atlantic Council. Always very privileged to be able to say that. She has served as Mexico's Undersecretary of Foreign Trade at the Mexican Secretary of the Economy, along with many other key positions that she's had throughout her career. So thank you so much for joining us, Luzma. We're also joined by J. Antonio Espinola, who is the MD Equities Head Mexico at Citi. Antonio will take us through today the market implications and really has his firm hand and firm grasp on what to expect moving forward from an economic and financial perspective. Thank you so much, Antonio, for joining us. And Bosco Marti is a non-resident senior fellow at the Adrian Arch Latin America Center. He is also the Global Director of Institutional Affairs and Communications for Aliatica, and he used to serve here in Washington as the Executive Director for Mexico and the Dominican Republic at the Inter-American Development Bank. So again, thank you all for joining us early in Mexico City. Open first question, what were your top 1 to 2 takeaways from yesterday's elections? And I'll start with you, Luzma. You're on mute.
Thank you, Jason. Good morning, everyone. Well, very excited to be here with you guys, and also very excited to be at this moment of Mexico's history. I think that we have to underscore the fact that Mexico will have its first female president in our history, and also the first female president in Mexico. So I think in North America, I'm sorry. So I think that that is a very good news, because we expect that as a woman, she will have a vision that will be taking into consideration women's issues, but also a different view with respect to the social needs and what Mexico needs to develop. So I think that that's very good news, Jason.
Thank you so much, Luzma. Antonio, what were your 1 and 2 takeaways from yesterday's vote?
Thank you, Jason, and good morning, everyone. I think that my first impression is a surprise, not due to the Sheinbaum win. I think that the thing that was not precisely expected is the huge gap of the win, and also the results of the local elections. I mean, the 9 different states, and also the composition of the Congress. So I hope that the technical aspects and qualifications of Dr. Sheinbaum could analyze in a deep manner the way that he wants to run the country. Because if she takes the position adopted by President Obrador, I think that the institutional frame of Mexico could be at risk in September.
Thank you, Antonio. Bosco.
Thank you, Jason. I agree completely with Luz Maria and with Jose Antonio. I mean, clearly Sheinbaum won with by a landslide, with a wider margin than the one that AMLO had in 2018, which represents a clear mandate for her. As Antonio mentioned, the election outcome indicates that Morena and its allies will secure 2/3 majority in the Chamber of Deputies, and likely in the Senate as well, which is certainly a significant development that could pave the way for substantial constitutional changes. But at the same time, I think that this clear mandate that she's getting is going to give her a lot of independence in order to be able to move forward on some of the very important pending issues that Mexico has in terms of energy infrastructure and some other issues.
Bosco, you raised the mandate and the margin of her win. I think important to note that the last election, AMLO won with 53.19% of the vote, and even at the lower a range of what she might eventually end up with, she will surpass that by at least 5 percentage points. And so that really, and obviously the congressional margin of victory as well. Bosco, could you highlight a little bit more on, you mentioned the independence that she might have. What can you explain that a little bit more?
Certainly, Jason. I mean, this very important mandate that she's getting is gonna really let her be able to focus and move forward all the agenda issues that she has been talking about during the campaign. I think that the one that is very important in particular is to accelerate the energy transition. Certainly Mexico is benefiting largely from this commercial conflict between China and the United States, and nearshoring is a reality. The companies that are coming to Mexico to invest and grow their footprint, they will certainly need to have access to clean energy in order to fulfill their ESG commitments. A lot of these are very, very large corporations which have very strong ESG commitments, that they need to fulfill. So I think that this will allow Dr. Sheinbaum to move forward with this agenda, and certainly continue on this social reivindication that AMLO government started 6 years ago.
Thanks, boss. I want to go back to Antonio. Maybe Antonio, you mentioned outside the governor, so you want to highlight that as well, but also how have the results thus far played or not played into pre-election market positions?
A very good question, Jason, and let me try to give you some context about my answer. First of all, the percentage of participation of this election, at least at the current moment, is 60%. As I mentioned before, it was surprising the gap, and the first reactions that we have seen in the market, especially in the exchange rate, are different from those that were expected before the election. No, I mean, it was clear that Dr. Sheinbaum will win, but not with that kind of a margin. So as you can see right now in the exchange rate, we have a devaluation of the peso for about 3% in comparison with the closing of Friday. And independently of the way that the futures are showing the potential performance of the Mexican stock market, which is minus 0.3%, I think that the reaction of the market, considering the way that the global markets are reacting to this, will be a loss today between 2 or 3% in the local stock market. Why? Because again, I think that the condition of the Congress maybe was the most important or the key element in order to define which is going to be the future of our country. So again, I think that if we are optimistic, I agree with the views that Bosco has shared with us. But again, I am a little bit skeptical due to the position, at least on the speech, that Dr. Sheinbaum managed during the whole campaign.
And Antonio, do you see the markets recovering over the course of the next few days, or do you see this as a temporary?
I think that maybe temporary, yes, because finally the valuation of the Mexican market is cheap in comparison with the average of the last 15 years. But again, I think that we are going to have a more transparent or certain view in September once the Congress is constituted, and obviously the discussion of the potential reforms is key, but also the discuss of the budget due to the indebtedness that the government acquired on this last year.
Thank you, Antonio. Luz Maria, let me go back to you. Commercial policy. Bosco mentioned nearshoring. You obviously know these issues so well. Should we expect any immediate changes in commercial policy when the new administration takes office in October?
Well, I think that there will be continuity. I don't expect to have any deep shifts from what we have seen in the López Obrador administration. Trade policy per se is not a priority and has not been a priority for the AMLO presidency, except for USMCA and the relationship with the US. Even then, USMCA has been implemented with some level of discretion by Mexico. We know that there are some issues that are still pending in terms of its implementation. So I think that the challenges that the incoming administration will face with respect to trade have to do with trade-related institutions and their effectiveness in Mexico. Mm-hmm. As you know, the Republican austerity that President López Obrador implemented weakened those institutions that are responsible for trade work in regards to permits, certificates of origin, sanitary permits, COFEPRIS, the customs agency, and many others. So there is a weakened civil service in the trade policy area. And that will be a challenge for the incoming administration. Trade-related institutions weakened throughout these 6 years, and that poses a challenge for Mexico becoming, attracting nearshoring. So I think that the incoming administration will need to find a way to beef up those institutions, to bring people who are knowledgeable about nearshoring and the nearshoring needs, for Mexico to be able to continue to be attractive. I would also add that what Bosco was saying with respect to renewable energy will be key.
Yeah.
We hope, and we have heard from the statements that the elected president, Claudia Sheinbaum, has made, that she will be open to public and private investment in energy, and especially in renewable energy, but that will take time. And my last comment is that I do see that there will be a continuity in terms of the vision that the state has a role to play in the economy beyond just being a regulator. So that will have to be balanced in a way in which trade policy can operate and allow Mexico's trade, investment, and Mexico's role in the global economy to continue to have a place, but also, very importantly, so that our connection, our integration to the global economy also brings benefits to Mexico.
And Luzma, your point on trade-related institutions and how those institutions have been weak. I mean, there isn't much time for the new administration to wait to begin to look at USMCA. We have the July 1, 2026 is the 6-year period of the USMCA when the sunset clause is becomes official. But before that, there's a lot of work that needs to be started pretty much immediately. Insofar as doing the review process of the agreement, what's working, what isn't working, both from the Mexican side as well as on the US side. That review process mandated by legislation will be starting far before that July 1, 2026 period. What do you see as some of the key steps that the new government will need to take to ensure that 2026 review of the USMCA is successful? And then also, how might China factor into that?
Sure. Now, you have an excellent point. The review will take place according to the USMCA 6 years after the entry into force. So that means July 1st, 2026. However, the US implementing legislation talks about a 9-month period before the USMCA review. So that brings us to basically September of 2025. So the incoming administration will have less than a year to make sure that Mexico's commitments in USMCA have been fully implemented. I think that it is in Mexico's best interest to fulfill our commitments, to make sure that we are complying with what we committed, because this is an agreement that was approved by the Senate by a great majority here in Mexico. Having said that, I think that is also important, Jason, because the implementing legislation provides for a period of consultation in the US through the Federal Register, and also it provides for some hearings, public hearings, and also consultations with the US Congress. So what I see as the best scenario for Mexico is that when those comments come up and when those public hearings come up, that US stakeholders, US comments are positive comments. There are comments that say that Mexico is the best partner for the US. Mexico is a good ally in terms of its own industrial policy, its own trade policy. And I do see that China will be a factor in it. But we also have to put this in perspective, because China is the elephant in the room. China is present in the US, in Canada, and Mexico in trade and investment. So my perspective, Jason, is that the incoming administration will have to be very strategic in terms of how we can build a regional perspective on how to deal with China. And we also need to be very clear about where are the sensitivities.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Luzma. I want to go back to Bosco to talk about Bosco, because you also spent time here in the United States, and talk a little bit of the bilateral relationship. and then Antonio speak with you further about foreign investment. But Bosco, a number of years here in the U.S., we have to realize that this election comes just months before the U.S. presidential election. Claudia Sheinbaum will take office just over a month before the election here in the United States. Mexico will inevitably continue to be part of the campaign discussion here in the United States, specifically security and migration as part of the campaign. How will the president-elect potentially balance her transition in these next few months amid a U.S. campaign that will also inevitably focus on Mexico?
Thank you, Jason. I think that's certainly a great question and something that we need to look quite a bit into detail. No, I think that the great challenge here is how can we avoid Mexico becoming the political piñata of this election? No, as you mentioned, there are two issues in particular that are being key during this electoral process, which has to do with migration and with fentanyl, drugs coming into the U.S., and certainly Mexico has a role to play. My take on this is that as far as Mexico proves to be the partner of choice of the United States in order to tackle these issues and work with on these issues on a bilateral and collaborative way, we'll be much better off than just being finger pointed on these issues. No, I think there's a great opportunity for Mexico to work on some structural issues that have to do with the migration phenomena. Nearshoring, as has been mentioned by Luzma and by yourself, is something that is already happening. These investments are coming into Mexico. There's a shortage in terms of getting the people for the jobs, no, and I think that here Central America can be a key factor. If Mexico is able to establish a good system that allows for a temporary workers program with Central America and other countries coming into Mexico that want to go to the United States, I think that we be much better off than just strengthening our borders and trying to make them less permeable. No, this is an economic issue that needs to be dealt with as it, and not only as a mean of just strengthening security, no. And the other one, in terms of drugs, we certainly need to strengthen the bilateral cooperation with the U.S. I think it was very clear yesterday on Sheinbaum's speech after the results were announced that she wants to have a very close and friendly relation with the U.S. And the fact of being the first woman president in North America and having a clear idea of how to work bilaterally on these issues, I think it provides a good opportunity for Mexico to become this partner of choice of the United States. Thank you.
Thank you, Bosco. Excellent points. I had the opportunity to sit down with now President-elect Sheinbaum a year ago in Denver at the City Summit of the Americas to talk about some of her plans at that point, specifically regarding the work she's done in Mexico City on sustainability. And what I noted was the pragmatic technical approach that she takes to issues. And I think your point is also an excellent one insofar as her ability to work with the United States and the fact that she has such a clear mandate coming into office, and an even stronger mandate than President Lopez Obrador had when he won 6 years ago. Antonio, we have just a few more minutes. I'd like to go back and get your thoughts. We've talked about investment. Luz Maria was talking about the Mexico's leadership on the importance of commercial issues. But how do you anticipate the results influencing foreign direct investment in Mexico? Of course, energy, renewable energies, energy transition is part of that equation. But what do you see insofar as the next few months, the next year? What do you see insofar as the implication of the results? But also, what should the new administration do to attract new foreign investors?
Okay, thank you. Actually, first of all, I want to say that I agree with the comments of my colleague Mariano Bosco, but I want to provide again context of the current reality in order to answer the question in the right manner. First of all, during the first quarter of 2024, the foreign investment that came to Mexico was up to $20 billion. This is 9% higher than the first Q of 2023, which is a very good news. However, from this total number of $20 billion, just 3% is related to new investments. And I think that considering that the nearshoring is a reality, and actually we have seen the results of this particular global condition. The reality is that the great pending issue from the Mexican government is the providing of mainly electrical energy. So if we want to make a bet regarding a pragmatic and independent condition from Dr. Sheinbaum, I think that here is the key element in order to become a reality in nearshoring, and actually the great potential that Mexico has on the trade condition that the country has. Please don't forget that I completely conscious about it, that Mexico is the main commercial partner of the US, with more than 50% of the total trade that we have with that particular country. And I think that and I hope that Mr. Sheinbaum could take advantage of this particular situation, even when precisely my understanding is that part of her academic background is precisely related to green energies.
Yeah.
So if we mix all these conditions, maybe that is a good, angle to see the potential benefits for Mexico. But again, we need to be a little bit more pragmatic and not so ideological, government as we have seen in the last sexenio.
Thank you, Antonio. We have just a few more minutes. I want to change course for a moment. You mentioned your opening comments about the gubernatorial elections. We haven't had a chance to dive deeper into those results. Could you share some of your takeaways of the 8 states and city of Mexico and what those results might mean?
Sure. Actually, I think that the most surprising result to me was the state of Yucatan. Supposedly was the one that was more, certain for the PAN, Acción Nacional, but they lost Yucatan, and the only state that remained in its wallet was Guanajuato. Also very surprising the result in Veracruz, because during the last 3 or 4 weeks, the situation in Veracruz became very, very tense in terms of political conditions. But again, in this state also, the winning party, that is Morena, obtained a very, very, wide gap in the result in its favor. And also Mexico City, Jason, as I was telling you offline, if we establish a comparison with the last election of 2021, from the 9 municipalities that the opposition used to have, right now the only municipalities that they will remain is only 4: Benito Juárez, Miguel Hidalgo, Coyoacán, and Cuauhtémoc. And it's in a very, very important dispute, the municipality of Álvaro Obregón, and also the municipality of Coajimalpa. Yeah. But the 9 remaining municipalities are clearly won by Morena.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Bosco and then Luzma for just any final comments of something that we have not mentioned over the course of the last 30 minutes that you'd like to add to the discussion. Just a quick 30 seconds. Bosco and then Luz Maria.
Thank you, Jason. I think that one of the greatest challenges that we have right now in Mexico in order to be able to take full advantage of nearshoring has to do with investment in infrastructure. The current government has certainly not put a lot of resources into infrastructure besides the present projects. No, so there's going to be a need of huge investment in infrastructure. For this, the private sector is going to be needed. It's clear that with a large deficit that this administration is going to end during this year, it's going to be complicated not to achieve at the same time fiscal consolidation and be able to invest in infrastructure. So I think that the key factor here is the private sector and how the incoming government is able to take advantage of this opportunity and really be able to move forward in a significant way to have the infrastructure that Mexico needs to continue being the main trading partner of the United States.
Thank you, Basso. Excellent points. Luz Maria, last word.
Sure, thank you. Well, from a trade policy perspective, I think that protectionism will continue to be an important pressure from the US side, but also at home. We're also facing important protectionist measures, and I think that we have to be careful about it. The USMCA review in 2026 will not be a walk in the park. I think that it is in Mexico's best interest to be better prepared, to be able to show that Mexico is the best ally and the best partner for the US and North America in terms of nearshoring. We see a certain level of fragmentation of international trade policy. We see regionalism prevailing over globalization. And I think that here in this construction of regions, Mexico has a great opportunity, but to be able to take advantage of that opportunity, the incoming administration should place at the center, offering certainty and clear rules for the productive sector and investors. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I want to again thank you, Luis Maria de la Mora, Antonio Espindola, Bosco Marti, for getting up early with us. Incredibly insightful, quick analysis of the results from last night. For those watching as well, feel free to join us on Wednesday, June 5th at 3:45 Washington, 1:45 Mexico City, where I'll be speaking with our ambassador to Mexico, Ken Salazar, for his first extensive public comments on the election. Again, thank you all for joining us and look forward to the next time.
Thank you.
Quiero que aunque norte y sur sean distintos, lleven un mismo latido en el ritmo.